Hello everyone, and welcome back to another B2 Gaming video. We're continuing our Red Dragon series, the Speedrun challenge for the campaigns. Today's campaign, Bear vs. Dragon, or Russia vs. China. We get to be China, the underdog. People would say at this time, this point in history, 1979. Let's hear the backstory.
November 3rd, 1978. Vietnam and the USSR sign a mutual defense treaty aimed at containing China's influence. December 25th, 1978. 2 months later, with Soviet support, Vietnam launches a full-scale invasion of Cambodia, China's ally. January 1st, 1979. Deng Xiaoping meets Jimmy Carter, seeking American support against Vietnam. February 15th, 1979. China terminates its 30-year-old Treaty of Friendship, Alliance, and Mutual Assistance with the USSR. February 17th, 1979. China invades Vietnam and warns the USSR not to interfere. February 1979. Nonetheless, the USSR sends warships and naval troops to Vietnamese waters and calls in mechanized troops to the Sino-Soviet border. Late February 1979. With its offensive bogged down in Vietnam, China realizes it can't afford to let the USSR get the upper hand and stab it in the back. March 2nd, 1979. Taking advantage of the absence of a main naval squadron and the incomplete buildup of Soviet forces, the PLA launches a surprise attack. Their objective, seizing and destroying the main Soviet supply base at Vladivostok.
Comrade Major, our informers are adamant the USSR is planning to attack us in a few weeks. The Politburo has therefore decided to launch a surprise offensive and capture Soviet strategic ports. You will thus attack the Soviet units as soon as possible, and you will capture Vladivostok before the enemy can react. This will enable our North Korean allies to lend us a hand. Then you will continue eastwards to secure Caballero without losing Vladivostok. The whole operation will have to be carried out in less than 18 days. I strongly advise you to capture the nearest enemy airfields, land your aircraft there, and neutralize the enemy air superiority. Major Zhao Yan, would you care to add anything to this? Thank you, General. Major, I want to remind you that the spearhead of your offensive is an armored regiment that will have to be reorganized after a long trip. You'll thus have to make the decision to attack immediately with your infantry battalions or to attack the next day with the support of your tanks. This is an important decision. Take time to make it properly. In other words, don't leave your tanks behind, but we're blitzing. We have no choice. Infantry's going in, the tanks just going to have to catch up. Maybe the hardest battle in this campaign is here in Naval Sector Bravo. Major, I must remind you the Marines from glorious Korea can move like ships when at sea and like ground troops when on land. This should enable you to set an attack strategy and take Vladivostok in a pincer movement. At one naval attack group against Naval Sector Bravo is barely enough. It's wise to send a second, but then you can't afford to add the North Korean Marines and everything else you might want. And have a fair amount of fighter options, but my strategy in this is ground-based, and choppers. I do use choppers. As you can see there, the attack helicopter battalion doesn't spawn with its full initiative, which is unfortunate because otherwise it's the obvious choice. Yeah, because of that, looks like I decided that I will get some naval reinforcements. A reminder, if you didn't catch the last episode, then I played these live on Twitch, and this is the edited version for YouTube, now being voiced over. So a little bit of a disjointedness between old me and new me. It's maybe a week or two old. I guess past me and present me is probably the grammatically correct way. I should have said that, in case anybody was wondering. Taking a lot of time here because, like I said, Naval Sector Bravo is the most important, and also early total victories are key in these speedrun strategies. I'm about to split the video, or edit just a couple minutes out of the video. I take a few minutes here choosing the last reinforcement. I had refreshed myself on the first campaign, but not the second campaign, so it took me a while to remember the best way to go about it. So we've made that jump I just mentioned, finally deciding on the air recon. Mentioned the Motostrelki are very strong here. Also the Factoria will absolutely obliterate even good tanks with a few hits, and most everything else with a single hit, vehicle-wise. So it'd be ideal to have air to attack this force, but I could not get any. Given how good the Motostrelki are, the last thing I want is for them to be able to set up in a town. Therefore, my strategy is just to blitz as hard as possible, and if they do get entrenched in a town, either to go around it or to dismount and just storm it with as few losses as possible. The ZBDs are excellent, excellent APCs, not only capable of taking on infantry, but also vehicles. So I'm essentially going to be using them as the main weapon of this blitzing force. Both my recon and infantry are mounted up in them. Not sure the caliber of their cannon, but I know that they can take out any vehicle save medium and above tanks. And right now we're not facing that, we're facing Motostrelki and their BMPs, which are also capable of putting a lot of hurt on me. It's really going to be a matter of an angle of attack, how big the forces are, as to who will take the most losses here. Unload my command unit and take the sector, but I only have the one command unit, so I'm gambling a bit here, hoping that they can't get around my forces and do any damage. Also deciding just to throw a few artillery rounds out, hopefully disorganize, catch some enemy. Personally, I'm pretty bad with artillery, so it's rarely part of my mix. But good medium and heavy caliber artillery usage is some of the more important things in this game. These recon move faster, and so they've gone out ahead. I'm moving them to the force so they don't get destroyed while my APCs catch up. You can see that their forces have a huge number of anti-tank rockets. These Malyutkas have very high armor piercing, AP armor penetration or piercing. One of the nice things about these vehicles is that they fire while they move, but at certain times I'm attacking because they'll be 3 or 4 times more accurate firing stationary than they are firing on the move. You can see once I hit the A move, lucked out there, and those hits killed, but once I hit the A move, I cleared the forest pretty quickly. These Malyutkas really need to be in the forest. They don't have much armor, they can't withstand even APC cannons. So I have this recon guarding the back door, and I'm assaulting in the other directions, to my left and my right, if you're imagining it from my commander's position looking at the front. From experience, I know that they are usually mainly to the right, but I'm trying to play at least somewhat honestly and send some forces left, some center, some right. Not completely just camp where I know the enemy spawns. That end, it seems like there's some RNG, and maybe based on what you do, maybe based on just random numbers, they will vary their strategy. I'm treating these ZBDs as light tanks, essentially. The infantry is the backup force. Try not to lose too many of them because these early total victories are very crucial, both to increase your own forces' morale and to clear up territory. Even if he comes back, when he comes back, I'll control all of these sectors except his entry sector. And that's regardless of whether I had command units in them or not. Reminder, if you missed the last video, the way you can win a total victory is to exhaust your opponent's points, the way I'm currently doing every time you see those points go up. Once it reaches 0 and you've suffered less than 30% of your points, that's a total victory. After that comes major victory, minor victory, and it goes down further to losses. You yourself can be totally defeated if you lose all your points and barely hurt the enemy. If you get totally defeated on battle 1, just restart, because it's game over, at least for this challenge. Most of my challenges are shooting for turn 3 or 4. Here I think they gave me till turn 16, 18. Give me a lot of turns, I'm not going to need most of them, because I am blitzing. The art of modern warfare is speed. And as you can see, having 4 to 8 cannons fire at something at the same time usually takes them out. Here my recon finds that out the hard way. Should not have had them so far in the front. They should have been in the middle with that single ZBD, forming their own mixed unit, bookended by the full strength quad ZBD squads. But the game doesn't demand perfection out of you, it just demands that you keep 71% of your forces alive to get that total victory. And here you see that I caught them coming around with the RPGs from that unit, finishing them off and getting that total victory. Only 75 points of losses. Pretty effective. Just the fact you shot at the very end there, driving the recon to their doom. If I could have pressed the stop command a little quicker, it would save 2/3 of my losses. But we're not going for perfection here. We're not going for a time speed run. We're going for a turn speed run. So you want as many total victories on turn 0 and turn 1 as you can possibly get. I had to end the turn there because naval forces only had the 2 initiative, and since he refused to counterattack me, he felt that I had superiority, otherwise the AI will attack you to try to drive you out of their sectors. But if they're not feeling they have better strength, they will not attack during their turn. And that's what happened since I sent 2 fleets, choosing to reinforce my navy with 10 points rather than spending it all on land. So you've got 5 points, so that's all you get. You get 5 points the first turn, not very much. Like I mentioned, it's been a while since I played this particular campaign, so I'm trying to remember what all the units do. You can see these nice 12 AP power cannons here, which is kind of insane for these armored personnel carriers that the Chinese are using to spearhead this assault. It was absolutely necessary for that first turn. If I waited for the tanks, honestly, the tanks would have done worse. They're slower. They've given the enemy infantry time to take up position in those buildings. The blitz attack with the APCs is really the only choice that I'm capable of doing in battle for this first province. I'm not going to try to pronounce it. Kraftsovka. That might be not too bad. But it's right next to Vladivostok, so we've cleared the way. Like I mentioned last episode, when you send a helicopter in, you capture a middle sector. So it's very advantageous to come in. And Vladivostok, I'm going to be coming from the air with that helicopter, the ground from Kraftsovka, and then also a naval unit will be landing, the Marines, so that I should have 3 sectors in Vladivostok, giving me a pretty strong opening position. Let's see if my memory is serving correctly there. Another look at those units I'm using. Very nice. CVDs. I decided the Marines can handle Vladivostok by themselves. Tanks secure a sector but won't be present in the battle because of their initiative. In hindsight, I probably would have swapped that, sent tanks north. Choosing between Luda or Najin is hard. Excuse me. I prefer to mix the two. Najin and Luda, you can get a little bit more. You usually get an extra vessel in your formation by mixing in some Najin, and they're not much worse. Big advantage, I think, is the cannon. This naval battle quite hard. I just edited out several failure attempts here for the YouTube version Twitch had to suffer this battle for about an hour. It was a long time. But if you play multiplayer or not, you know that sovereignty are no easy prey. I have to adopt some conservative tactics and use these A5s to their best use, especially as they represent 800 of my 1100 or so starting points. If they go down, I go down. But in a naval battle, some people don't realize all you gotta do is take out all the command ships. You don't have to take out all of the ships. It's just like a land battle in terms of total victory. You can capture all the sectors, you can annihilate all the enemy command points, or you can defeat them while suffering less than 30% losses. It's very important when you're using your airstrike to target the ship you want to strike before you're in weapons range, so that your airplanes don't release their missiles on one of the escort ships and you mash your fire. You see, they already shot down one of my planes, but 8 fighters took out that one Sov. And there's only 4 to go, so if I lose 1 plane for each sovereign, I will eventually win. These MiG-29s that they mentioned, they're very painful. MiG-29Ks, the anti-ship version, I would assume, since here they are in the naval battle. At this point, I'm just trying to survive their counterattack while my airplanes rearm. I'm lucky that none of the remaining 7 got damaged, and they'll all be ready simultaneously. As you can see, Nanushka's pretty good. Being targeted by muskets. Those are also very good. They don't have any ammo for a second shot, but oftentimes their first volley is enough to finish you off. Look out there, and that Majin doesn't die to the volley. So my best bet is to bypass the frontline forces, head for the rear, try to snipe Sovereignty number 2. Sovereignty number 2, I think it's probably said. It's a beautiful sight when they all go in. And that's it. After about an hour, 5 minutes is all it took for the final total victory. If you ever fail, you can hit escape at this point. If you hit OK, if you've gone too far and there's a new autosave. But if you hit escape at this point, you can load the autosave before a battle and redo it as many times as you need to during this challenge until you get it right. Which is what I have done. I'm not sure if I got perfect on any of these runs. I don't think so. I think one mission or another always got me down. I was hearing something there. I'm not sure if it's a computer or something else. Okay. So now that I've cleared the way, I have to decide, because like we learned in Campaign 1, when you've got these 2 Marine divisions, you can stagger them. The first lands and achieves a total victory, clearing a way for the second to land, move, and attack, and take 2 sectors on 1 turn from the same naval landing. sectors. This is from Bravo. I'll be getting both Vladivostok and the next door neighbor, Bolshois. Bolshoikamen? Sounds about right. But the next door coastal sector will also be invaded. Assuming that I can get this total victory here in Vladivostok. It'll be hard to tell the difference between the Soviet and the Chinese flag, but I'm coming in from the sides. I didn't actually get the center, which was disappointing, but I'm coming from the sides and I've got a naval sector. Okay, so what happened there was a major victory, but not a total victory. You can see, not quite enough. Their Pion artillery does a lot of damage. Need to mitigate that by taking them out a little bit quicker in this next attempt. That'll be our focus. Or rather, in the third attempt, see the another reload edit. Just let you know, tough one. These Moskoya Pekota and their BMPs especially do a lot of damage. A lot of times the best infantry can be stunted by bad APCs, but in this case, some of the best of both going against each other. Korshan mounted Korean Marines versus these semi-elite motorized Russians. Certainly no conscripts. Okay. Come to the conclusion that I need more force in this city than I had originally put in. Normally, 8 good infantry can hold a whole grouping of buildings by themselves. But when you're heavily attacked, you'll need a lot more. Also decide to pull the APCs back and use them in an organized counterattack rather than leaving them on the defensive to be destroyed piecemeal, which ended up happening to me in my first attempts. Here I'm using a trick where your amphibious command units can actually hold naval sectors. This is one of the sneakiest ways you can capture sectors, because anything that's within a sector can capture it. So if there's a swampy area with a little bit of a lake, you can move your amphibious area into it, assuming that it's surrounded by trees. Might never be scouted, might never be artilleried. One of the sneakier ways you can capture a sector. For instance, that river in the northern sector, you can park right underneath the bridge. But anyway, I moved the Marines into position to let this first wave have it, but then I pull back because they just have too much firepower. I have to give them access to the city. I can't protect the perimeter. But knowing this, I've already got reinforcements coming in. If I can blunt this main assault and capture a third sector to increase my income, then I should be in good position to get my total victory. Infantry is one of the best units to tank with, because as long as you don't lose the unit completely, it'll be replenished for the next mission. Not so for the APCs. Often you can lose an APC and not the infantry, and it still counts as lost. I think it depends on which costs more, the infantry or the APC, but I'm not sure there. You see, I do suffer some losses which is bad micro on my part. I should have pulled that unit that was near death back much more quickly. But this game doesn't force you to take 0 losses and play perfectly. You want to keep in mind the strategy much more and make sure that you never fall behind in the big picture in the command point department, rather than making sure every unit survives or every unit does max damage. Min-maxing, some call it. Just sent force the Corsian assault. About 15 to 20 of these very potent APCs. They're bad against infantry unless the infantry can be distracted by something else before the APC comes in. That's why I'm moving my infantry first. Try to draw their fire onto my men, who can take a beating while the APCs come in and deliver their damage. In terms of versus infantry, my APCs can deliver a lot more damage than they can take from the RPGs and anti-tank missiles. The Factoria, luckily for me, take a long time to aim, so when they catch you in the smoke, it's usually the vehicle that wins and not the anti-vehicle infantry. Something to keep in mind when you're trying to clear a bunch of buildings with them. Hope you brought some artillery and you can smoke them out. Pardon me while I take a drink. Here we are. So the smoke mixed everything up, but actually probably really helped my Corsian counterattack just steamroll over the disorganized enemy assault as it got broken up in the fighting in the smoking buildings. So one force actually made it to my rear. Eventually cleaned that up, and now it's looking good to go on the attack myself. Yeah, I'm a little slow at control in this game. I'll often turn things to slow or very slow so I can assist myself with micro. But here for the video, I'm doing my best to stay at normal speed, even though it's sometimes probably costing me a unit here or there, since I can't accelerate it during my commentary, as it's already been cast and I'm just adding the commentary now. Works better to keep it at normal as much as possible so it doesn't drag and force me to have large dead spaces. I'm already fairly bad at leaving some dead air. I'm not a communications major or a disc jockey, any kind of job that requires a lot of talking. It's a bit behind the curve when it comes to keeping things moving. Better staying silent though than saying like or so there's that. You can see I've got a force coming around through the road, making its way, defeating a smaller counterattack trying to catch me in the rear. I've actually moved so fast that I overran their reinforcements as they tried to make it to help with the assault. Capturing supply is already nice. As you can see, I needed it. That supply unit got drained instantly. Almost certainly, mainly for the RPGs. Not nearly as bad as anti-tank missiles, but they do take up a large amount of truck space, large amount of logistical space as well. As you can see, the I hate saying the word the Gyokudai, but these North Korean Marines have some excellent armor-piercing RPGs. I get a big chunk of the way towards victory there when I take out all the peons, the 100-point artilleries. Those are 100mm plus cannons. And then here is my infantry joining, attacking from the west to the east, from the river, from their naval transports. If you don't create a solid perimeter, you'll find AI is excellent at slipping their command units through the cracks and winding up behind you. The time factor of 20 minutes can often become very crucial in these campaigns when you're trying to hunt down the last AI command unit. The clock is ticking and you realize he's way behind where you thought he was. That's why I'm bringing in this M1 scouting chopper and now another to make sure I can ID these command units. At this point I'm worried that I've taken enough losses that I can't afford to just run out the enemy points. I need the command unit itself. I'm attacking with the infantry through the buildings, and then these open areas between the buildings are where I'll keep the Korshon so they don't get ambushed. I caught something down there that might have been a command unit. Another command unit moving in. Bad place to be. Got a pretty organized group here. Something up there. Actually didn't notice what might have been a recon. At this point, I'm in extreme tryhard mode because I know I'm close to winning. But that maybe another loss or two might put me over the 30% and cost me the total victory again. I've won this battle 3 times, but the last 2 times have been major victories, which slow you down enough to cost you the Blitz challenge. You can't afford to get bogged down in any battle. If it's along the road to one of my objectives, it has to be a total victory. That was the rule in the last campaign, it's the rule in this campaign. And I got it very close. I don't know if that was 1 point away from the 30%, but I got it. So I'm going to do the math. That was close. Beware, comrade, the sea route between Vladivostok and Changzhou must not be challenged or will lose the ability to get reinforcements. Make sure you keep control of Alpha and Bravo if you want to get North Korean units. In fact, I've already got everything I need. Yep, and you catch routing units with an active force, they're just straight up destroyed. So as you can see, my plan worked perfectly. Can't quite decide what to do about this top sector, if I want to attack or end the turn and let them attack. There's advantages and disadvantages both ways. If you attack and do well, it gives you an extra turn to take the province because they're almost certain to counterattack. But if you attack and do poorly, it means you're much more likely to get routed and completely destroyed. Here I decide to fight the battle, but I don't actually do very well. I know that the enemy is strong, but I assume that I've got a good chance because these ZBDs are just, they're mini tanks. They've proven themselves in the first battle of this campaign as just world beaters. So I'm assuming that they can save me again here in this one. But compared to any battle I've fought in either of the first two campaigns so far, this is probably the worst mismatch in starting forces. So I'm going to need a lot of luck to get a victory, let alone a total victory. These enemy T-34 are numerically the highest amount of opponent, what term am I looking for here? The most numerous piece of hardware my opponent will be using, I guess. I'll say it like that. But they have a lot of vehicles, a lot of infantry to face me. And though I kind of come into this battle laughing at the T-34, when they're coming at you 10 or 20 at a time, they cease being a joke. Best to unload your APCs and just have your infantrymen hoof it when you think you'll be going into fire, because sometimes not any of your men will survive when an APC is destroyed, and even if most of them survive, they'll have a morale hit for losing their APC. And then when you do unload, make sure to move your APC, because there's not a huge amount of AoE in this game, but if a tank cannon hits the APC that just unloaded you, your infantry will take damage, and if that APC explodes from damage, then it'll take, I think, even more damage. But don't quote me on that. I just know that even if you unload, if you don't move your infantry, they're still going to take a good amount of damage, even if you unload them before the destruction of the APC. Just unload, then move. A little separation. As you can see, 10 or 20 tanks is the problem. It looks like that's about 30 or 40 tanks columning up on that road and coming after me. Sorry for those who find the very slow excruciating, but I felt it very necessary to have any chance at surviving here. Normally I'd be moving to attack since they're in range of the RPGs, but they've just got so many tanks, they will insta-give any infantry they see. My only hope is to let them come into the buildings and take them out one at a time. As you can see by the bars on the right, this is probably the worst mismatch in terms of losses that I'll have to take before the battle ends. Got 2-to-1 advantage already. And I don't think I've suffered many, if any, losses. Though now I'm taking some now that I've moved the ZBDs into attack. I've kind of caught them in a nice kill box with tank rockets coming from the side, infantry attacking the right, and everything coming straight on at them. But then things get a little worse when they come in and bomb me unopposed. Luckily, I'm spread out enough. And then you may not have noticed earlier, but I have this flanking attack going in, trying to catch him from behind. In addition to the T-34, there's also those Su-122s, which are actually not classified as tanks, but are probably better tanks than the T-34s. This is one of those battles that I decided at some point that I'm going to try to win, but if I lose it, I'm not going to replay it, because I don't think it's crucial. It's not along our axis of objectives, which was only 2 this campaign, Vladivostok and Caballero, as I think the second. Suddenly my optimism is tempered when about 20 vehicles come across the ridge there. And whereas I was thinking I might just steamroll this, suddenly I realize not only do they have a defensive line, they've got their second counterattack already mobilized and rolling in. Trying to decide to unload or not, or if I can move closer. And I decide that I'll probably suffer too many infantry losses if I try to move in. So I separate them here and begin the final attack. However, I really have nothing in the way of similar strength as this attack coming in on the left. So a total victory is going to require a miracle. That bomber there drops heat, which as far as I know doesn't do any damage to infantry. Certainly not any kind of noticeable damage. High explosive will take out your infantry, heat will take out your vehicles. Hardly any vehicle has more than 1 armor on its top. Be interesting to see the next war game where they add the final direction bottom armor. That will require the addition of mines, which will probably be a little too abused to become a big feature of war game, but personally I won't be happy until we get that kind of total realism, or at least some kind of sapper units can lay mines. You see here I've got this last second push where I just maybe can get the victory, but they actually get me here. A minor defeat. Tragic. It's tragic, but I decided to take it. Take it on the chin. Nobody's perfect. You got me. But they're too far away from Vladivostok to really threaten my victory. So I say, alright, fine. Not trying to impress people by completely wiping every province of enemy forces. Someone's probably done that before, trying to win this on turn 3 or turn 4. That's the goal. Just realized I made a slight mistake. That helicopter to the west was too far to ever contribute, and there was another helicopter to bring in, so I decided to bring in that Marine helicopter regiment in Vladivostok instead, making more sense. So, can't move this turn, but he's still 2 provinces closer than the other helicopter was to both objectives, so I decided that's tactically the better decision. Also decide don't need to fight these northern battles, just put my forces in their way to prevent Vladivostok from being attacked by the Russians to retake it while I move on Cavallero. See, I didn't need to do that, but decided to see how well it would go if I did do it. But actually, at this point, in these turns, 2 and 3, the only battle that mattered is this one. I need this total victory, and I will get the victory after that. Got some good forces, the type of forces that I'd be putting in my deck if I were playing multiplayer. So it's not going to be easy. What am I doing? Auto-resolving? Probably just about to load it here just to give you an idea of how things would go. Yeah. It would have been pretty embarrassing if I could have won that with an auto-resolve. Embarrassing for the AI and for the game makers, but maybe that's a little embarrassing for me. I do better. So this battle was tough. They really front load and come right at you, and these 2 sectors are separated by about 1 kilometer. That's that distance between the blue and red lines. About 1 kilometer, maybe a little more. Yep, almost all weapons have that range. The weapons that are under 1 kilometer range are your infantry small arms. Most of your infantry RPGs will have only about 600, 700 meter range. 0.67 kilometers, if you're not familiar. So my core shuns will be the key to winning here. The infantry will certainly help, but I'm going to need those core shun cannon and missiles to do their job. I've also got excellent recon, so that helps a lot. As you can see here, I need to go very slow in order to have enough time to move properly. You'll see the mouse turns blue when you're going to a defensive area in the hedge. Anywhere you'll receive cover, the cursor will turn blue like that. So, forest, hedges, some urban areas provide cover. Since this is the final battle, and I need to keep my losses under 30%, going very slow at this key early juncture. The BMPs are very potent, and that anti-tank vehicle also very accurate. If it starts getting shots off, I'm going to take losses. And with my very low starting points, I think about 700, only gives me leeway to take about 200 points in losses, which is not that much. At the cost of my average unit, it's about 7 or 8 of them. Yeah, the Shiturn's very, very accurate, very, very high AP damage. Something like 26. It's up there amongst the highest armor penetrating damage. Luckily, my own Korshun anti-tank missiles, while not as powerful, are accurate enough and numerous enough to be winning the day over here. As you see, I just unload the infantry in time. It's where the very slow comes in handy to save those losses. And I'm now starting to get to the encirclement point. This here is the most crucial point of the battle, where I catch the Malkas. As you're about to see, they're very, very expensive. The most expensive artillery we've faced yet, which means they're like, 120, 150 millimeter cannon, tube cannon artilleries over here. And suddenly the computer has less command points left in their bar than I do. If I can keep my losses down, we've got this total victory in the bag. But those BMPs and Motostrelki are both excellent forces. If they have the advantage, they're gonna get kills. But with this surround that I have on them, cannons from the open, infantry, and APCs from the forest, there's nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. What forces they do have, even if they're undamaged, have taken heavy morale hits based on the number of nearby kills and fire that they have sustained. Even if it doesn't kill you, taking fire damages your morale in this game. And so if you can't kill a unit, it's still sometimes wise to target it with some sort of cannon or artillery so as to lower its accuracy and thus lower the damage that you're taking. You see the Shitern shots coming in, like I said, very accurate, very high damage. Korshuns have decent armor and it just got one-shotted by the anti-tank weaponry that the Shitern is using. A couple more hits like that and my total victory will evaporate. As you can see, if all of their forces had fought from the woods and the town, I'd have taken 10 times higher losses. Because that last force that hid in the woods survived way longer. But the total victory is achieved, and very quickly, because we both threw ourselves at each other, and I came out on top. Very fun things happen when you throw yourselves at each other, that's all I know. In this case, it was very fun for me. I hope it was very fun for you, because we've just about come to the end of our time together. Wow, this is a magnificent total victory for the people of China. The Soviet troops have routed to escape from your assault. We will now negotiate in the strongest position. Congratulations, General. Yep, that feels good. Hope you all enjoyed. Hope everyone enjoyed. Hope you all you beautiful, great people out there who have stuck around to the end. Hope you enjoyed this War Game Red Dragon challenge of winning on turn 3 Campaign 2, Bear vs. Dragon. That's about all I have for you today. So tune in. We've got 3 more episodes in this series already recorded, just awaiting my beautiful voiceovers. So stay tuned. They'll be out in a day or two. Thank you very much. Tune in next time, and have a great day.